Hi guys, and welcome to Freckle Finance, and today my video is going to be on tips to avoid feeling guilty about spending. If you haven't subscribed already or you're new to this channel, make sure you click that subscribe button below and thumbs up for budgeting. So I'm someone who often has guilt about spending money, and this is independent of whether it is something that we need to buy or something that we want to buy. And it doesn't matter how much I've saved, how well I've done with my budget, I often have guilt. And I think a lot of people have guilt whether they spent within their budget or outside of their budget. And so I wanted to give you guys some tips on how to lessen the guilt or completely eliminate the guilt that you feel when you're spending money. So while I was reflecting on this idea, I realized I need to come up with a way so that I don't feel guilty about spending money, because it's not healthy to constantly feel guilty about spending. Now, there are situations when you should feel guilty about spending, and we'll be covering those as well. So the first thing you need to do is assess whether your guilt is justified. And that's up to you to decide. No one but you and your partner or anyone involved in your direct finances really has a say on whether it's justified or not. But if you're in debt and you just bought a brand new car and you took out a loan for it, you probably have justifiable reasons that you should feel guilty, and hopefully that guilt will help you to eliminate doing that in the future, and the guilt is there to prevent you from continuing on this path that you know is wrong. And that kind of guilt is kind of a healthy guilt, because it does help you in the future if you try to avoid feeling the guilt. However, if it's getting cold out and you need a winter coat and you don't own one, and you're feeling guilty about buying a perfectly reasonably priced coat, that is not healthy guilt. And that's guilt that needs to be eliminated, reduced. You don't want it in your life. It's not good to feel guilt about spending money that you have or that for things that you need, even if it's an emergency. Now, if this was an emergency situation and it was completely unexpected, your oven broke or your furnace broke, you needed to repair your roof, any of those type of items, hopefully you had an emergency fund in place, and that should reduce the amount of guilt that you feel. But I do know that a lot of people will still feel really, really bad for taking money out of their emergency fund, even though it was for the purpose that the emergency fund is there for. So if the guilt is not justified, you need to remind yourself of the financial situation that you're in, that it's not necessary to feel guilt. You have the money, it was in your budget. This does not dramatically affect your long-term financial future. You're still saving money, you're investing for your retirement, all that stuff. Just remind yourself that this was something you planned to do, especially, if it is something that you plan to do, or that it was something that you required, or that it's something that was required of you to purchase. And even if it was outside of your budget and it was required, it's not going to put you off track that much, especially if it's a small item like you needed a winter coat or you needed to buy your child a winter coat. It's not going to take you off budget long term, especially when it comes to retirement savings. I know most of the people who watch this channel, or at least watch my channel, are 25 to 35 years old. There is tons and tons of time to save for retirement, and spending an extra $15 to $50 on a rare occasion is not going to put you off track that much. It's really not going to change if you can retire at 65 or not, so to speak. So just remind yourself that it's not putting you off track very badly, or that you're still completely on track because you stayed within budget. Now, if the guilt is there because you went off your plan and you spent more than you should have, or you used your emergency fund for something that wasn't an emergency, like I said, this guilt is justified guilt. It is something that you should feel, but there are ways to prevent you from feeling it again in the future. And to do that, you need to figure out, why did this happen? Why did you spend money that you didn't have? Why did you spend more money on something than you should have, than you planned? A lot of the reasons are because of boredom, depression, you're tired, you're stressed, and you went shopping. So one of the main things to do is to find something other than shopping or spending money to entertain yourself, to occupy yourself, to get yourself out of a mood. You need to learn and develop coping skills for life's stressful or bored situations, so that this doesn't continue on a path of you spending and feeling guilty, and then spending and feeling guilty. We got to eliminate or greatly reduce the guilt. So I know for me, when I'm feeling bored or lonely, or pretty much many types of different emotions, the best thing for me to do is to put on some music, start dancing, and start singing my heart out. So everyone has something that is very cheap to do that they will enjoy. If you haven't discovered it yet, it's going to take some time for you to discover, but I believe that you will find something that is very cheap or most likely free that you can do, and especially with your family. Walking. Like I love going for walks, especially if you have some beautiful parks or trails nearby. There are things you can do to occupy yourself that don't involve going shopping or spending money. You don't have to go out and spend money to entertain yourself or to relieve stress. If you're someone who is impulsive with your spending or just spends money easily, avoid situations where this will happen. Don't walk into a mall, don't go near stores, don't bring cash on you, don't bring your credit cards, etc. If you're going out for something that does not have that purpose in mind, don't just eliminate the urge for this to happen to you. If you're going into a store where you often do overspend, bring a list, stick to the list, and give yourself a pat on the back for sticking to the list. If you're someone where this is very difficult, you need to give yourself coaching and say you did a great job when you don't overspend and when you stick to the budget and you find a good deal. Give yourself a pat on the back, but don't allow that good deal to mean that you can go spend the money somewhere else though. Spending money that you don't have or you didn't plan, that was not for a need, usually comes out of materialism, which comes from a place of feeling like you're missing something in your life of some sort. Now, just like Rachel Cruz's new book, Love Your Life, Not Theirs, learn to love yourself, be content with your life, and remember that the grass is not always greener on the other side. And just because everyone looks happy in the commercials or your friends seem great in their expensive home and their nice cars and their name brand clothing, etc., does not mean that is the case. They are probably also filling voids in their life with spending. Find contentment in your current life to prevent materialism from taking it over. Whether this was justified or unjustified guilt, just remember that it's very likely that this will not completely derail your entire financial plan. Get back on that horse. This is not a reason to go all hog wild spending money just because you went off track and you feel guilt. Hop back on that horse, get going, and get to your financial future. And start creating a great financial future. So this by no means was an all-inclusive list of tips to avoid or reduce feeling guilty or to stop you from spending money that you shouldn't be spending. So if anyone has any other tips, make sure you comment down below. And remember, no matter what your financial situation is, make sure to have a great day. Bye.